Okay.
Yeah. We're ready to go.
All right. Okay, so we're Team A. We were working on the restaurant service system. Our team includes Joseph, Kyle, and myself, Brian. It sounded like we wanted a little bit of an introduction. And for background, I've been a software engineer for maybe about 4 years, and this course was of interest to me because I've already interacted with certain types of services, and I just wanted to know how can we contribute to these global software project teams. And actually, I think this would be a good opportunity now to Joseph, if you want to say something about yourself, and same with Kyle.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, yeah, so around the same area as Brian as well. I've been working as a full stack developer for the past 2 years while going through grad school. And yeah, it's been mainly doing microservice development with REST API services. So definitely learned a lot in this class, which really benefited me in work. And I was able to couple nicely with a lot of the new tech stacks we're doing now, using like DevOps and cloud computing. So everything is kind of working seamlessly together. So yeah, this class all in all was extremely beneficial, and it was really good to get to learn SOAP and WSDL as well. I got to use it a little bit in work, so it was really cool to dive into it in this class. So very appreciative of that. Kyle, did you want to go?
Yeah. Thanks for Brian and Joseph for my thanks for your patience for my speaking. In the development process, I improve my not only the development skills but also the speaking. So thank you.
All right, so now we'll step back into it. So Joseph, if you can advance one slide.
Yeah. Sorry, let me just.
So this next slide is the presentation overview. So just what we're going to share with you. So we're going to start by looking at the services overview, what services we have that make up our system. Then we're going to go into each individual service and look at what it is, what the endpoints are, and then we're going to actually get into a demonstration where we can see some of the Postman operations being performed on these endpoints. Following, we'll take a look at the AWS infrastructure. Joe put a lot of effort into the AWS, and he combined knowledge from one class and this class, which was pretty awesome. All right, we can advance slides. Okay, so for service overview, there's the API user, which from our project might sound a little familiar. Essentially, if you want to hit our endpoints, you have to be a registered user. We've got the menu, restaurant, review, reservation, and table as well. And I won't spend too much on this overview. We can advance. Okay, so as I was kind of doing, I was elaborating already. The API user service allows for API users to register and log in. It prevents random users from accessing the API. And ultimately, we use the web tokens that we learned about from class to accomplish this. We can advance one further. Okay, so there's going to be a registering endpoint, and then there's going to be a login endpoint. You essentially establish a token by providing your username credentials. And when you receive that, you can send that back in with the login and your residential or your credentials, and then get another token and then use that for all future requests when interacting with our services. So let's go into the demonstration code. Well, let's go to Postman, I guess is the right place to start. Okay, so we're just going to start with that first test case underneath registration and authentication, or that first request that's a post right there. Yeah, that one. we ran into a lot of interesting kind of things where we went back and forth on things and made different changes. So bear with us if we have a couple little adjustments that need to be made during the presentation. For example, like this, small little things, but essentially you issue requests to this register endpoint with no authorization there, and include in the body the username and password that you're using. So if you click in body, we can just make sure all the fields are there. So we've got the tacoman@gmail.com and password 1 is the password. The reason we're getting an internal server error, I'm not actually sure at the moment. Maybe for time's sake, we won't dig into it, but if you take a quick peek, maybe it's like a very simple thing. That's internal. Where's that? It's all right. So let's go to the next one with login with token. We've actually saved off a token into an environment variable. So hopefully this will still work out for us. So let's send this request in. And if we need to, I could always share my screen if I have operating. And there you go. So we've sent in some information, including our user credentials and our existing token, a token for our whole session to use. And then we can show an unauthenticated attempt. Feel free to go ahead and hit send there. Oh, this is not for the right endpoint. Something changed about this. So actually, we're just going to skip past this. We ran into a couple of weird issues. We tried to use the collaborative features of Postman, and it actually ended up backfiring on us. I would make changes, and then Joe would be there at the same time, and it would not know which one to use, and then it would remove files that I made. It was pretty crazy. Anyways, let's go back to the presentation. And let's carry on from there. We can go back and try and resolve some of those little things with time permitting. And I think, Joe, I think this is you.
Cool. So for reservation and restaurant, those are two services that are synchronized together in the database and in our code as well. The reservation service just allows the user to be able to not only create a reservation, or when they're creating a reservation, they're able to make, modify, and cancel them, but they establish how large of a or what restaurant they want to reserve a table at and the size of the table as well. And we have it created to where when the table that is in the database called reservation is joined with the restaurant table. So whenever a reservation is made, a trigger is created to where the available tables that are in the restaurant table are now decreased by 1. So when you go to pull that from the restaurant table or restaurant service, you can see them interacting with each other as well. And we'll go over both of them sync together. So these are the endpoints, just a quick look at them to get an understanding. And we're going to do a demonstration. So I'm going to demonstrate both the restaurant and reservation together. So the restaurant service, like I mentioned before, works together with reservation, but the restaurant itself has endpoints operations that allow you to create, read, update, and delete a restaurant as well. And you could view and manage the reservations too. And these are the respective endpoints. And let's get into it to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So right here, you can see reservation. We also, instead of using localhost, we deployed the application on an EC2 instance on AWS and attached a domain name to it. So that's why you see, instead of like localhost 8080, we got a domain name for it. So essentially it would be localhost running on 8080 port for Tomcat. So we run this. Let me double check everything is running. Oh, yeah. So one issue that we wanted to resolve that we did not have time to was we wanted to come up with endpoints for each of the services that could populate all the columns within each of the tables in the databases. So like for reservations, you could do a GET request for like a reservation ID 1, 2, etc. Unfortunately, with time constraints, we weren't able to fully put together the GET request for get all reservations, just like get all reviews, get all restaurants. So that's something we definitely want to continue working on after the class and get working. But as you can see here, we did a get restaurant ID. Now, to give you a little understanding, so for restaurant, let's go ahead and create a restaurant right here. So Pizza Palace has 12 available tables. Let's just make it 11, right? There's currently 7 columns in the database. If we do this, it's going to create 8. Just to show you. So it updated that and has tables available 11. Now, keep in mind that ID 8, because it's going to have to match up when we create a reservation. So we go to create a reservation. It's going to give you an option to put in the customer ID, restaurant ID, which we're going to use 8, which is Pizza Palace. Table size as 4, that's the largest table available. It goes from 1 to 4. And table ID, schedule time 7 for 7 p.m. Date May 10th. So we're going to do that. We see that updates. Let's just do this just to double check. Yep. And then if we go back to the restaurants to look it up, this 11 should decrease to 10. So as you can see, it decreased to 10 once we made that reservation. Now there's only 10 tables available because a user created a reservation, right? And then we have the following methods as well. If we wanted to do this, update it. See, I updated from Pizza Palace 2. Now if we go back, it should update to Pizza Palace 2, etc. And you can do delete as well, modify this. We want to create a new reservation yep. So we see that updated customer ID 4, and you can do them as well. We're going to leave those as it is, but yeah, that's how the restaurant and reservation services work seamlessly together. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint to see what service will be next. Okay, and then Brian, did you want to take over this one? Or was this Kyle? Oh, you're on mute, Brian.
Okay, I'm gonna try and repeat myself. I said, sure, no problem. So if we could go back to Postman for one moment, I just want to correct the problem that we have with authentication. Essentially, the way our system currently is, if you ask to register a user that's already existing, it does throw an internal server error. It doesn't kill the server, but that is the matter of the fact. So if you just change it to something else at gmail.com, like for example, demo@gmail.com, and then issue that request, we should be able to get our token. Okay,
Nice.
cool. So just so that we know that that is there is room for improvement as well. So let's hop back to the slides. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so, all right, we went from restaurant to menu. I'm following along on my screen as well. Okay, so for menu service, essentially every restaurant's got to have a menu. They've got to be able to update their menu. They've got to be able to set the status of availability, essentially what hours the restaurant's available, and the prices of the individual items. So let's set one forward. So for the endpoints, we have our CRUD operations once again. Ultimately, the most important thing was that if someone came along and utilized our API, that they could build higher level functionality on top of this. So let's now go to Postman and see some of these in action. All right, so if we step into our requests in menu, we've got get menu by ID. We've got several in the database. I'm hoping 5's in there. Let's issue that request. All right, so 5 apparently is for sandwich. Go ahead and make it 6, just so we can see that there's some more in there. And 6 is sandwich. So there's for the get. Let's move on to create. So we want to create a new menu item. Menus are for specific restaurants. However, the restaurants specify the menu, not the other way around. So let's create one, and you can just issue this request. That should be fine. Okay, and it works. And I need to correct myself. The availability in menu was actually about whether the item was available to be ordered. So then my apologies. I was mixing up 2 of our services. And let's step over to modify menu. Let's make an edit to one of the menus. Yeah, let's issue. So we were looking previously at a specific one. If you don't mind going back to the get menu by ID, I think it was number 6. One more higher, Joseph. To get menu by ID. Thanks. All right, sure, we can take that. Any of them is fine. So issue the request, make sure we have it. It looks like new name is the name of the item. And let's just go to modify menu, insert 4, and let's assign this new menu to be McDonald's. Okay, well, let's issue that. Awesome, and now let's go back to the get, just to see that it's come through. Great, so we've modified that. Now let's delete McDonald's. It's time to be done with it. Supersize me no more. So let's type in, it was 4, right? So let's type in 4 for ID, issue that request. And it comes back with the status 200, okay. And now if we ask for the get, we get a not found 404. So that's great. So let's go back to the presentation. We have next the table service. Kyle's going to let us know about the table service.
Okay, the table module is responsible for managing the tables in the restaurant. It's allowed the restaurant managers to create, modify, delete, and delete the table. It also provides the functionality to view the table status and availability. It's similar like the previous modules. We also provide 4 interfaces to manage tables of the restaurant. Next slide, please. Yeah, actually, they are similar to the previous module. We have get, post, put, and delete corresponding to query, add, update, and delete function. So yeah, just let's demonstrate our functions. For this function, we can query tables by the this is create table. For table, we have several attributes, including restaurant ID, table number, table size, and capacity and status. We can change the status of the table to because when customer do the reservation, he can check how many tables available of this restaurant by this status attribute. Okay, we saw the request is successful.
And for sake of time, we might actually want to skip ahead a little bit. I know, Professor, you were saying 25 minutes, right?
Yeah, you have about 5.
Yeah, I think
5 minutes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, let's get back to the
Let's
presentation.
go straight back to review. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you short there, Kyle.
And then we could go through the remaining, Brian and Kyle, the remaining service slides and then just cover
Yeah.
them all at once in Postman.
Yes, and then talk about our reflections, what we didn't get to, and
Yeah.
what we would like to do in the near future. Right.
Perfect.
Yeah, the real service is also similar as previous module. Provide the ability to post a review about the restaurant service and include an overall and description.
Right.
Yeah, they're similar.
Yep. So essentially, the CRUD operations exist for basically all of our endpoints. And instead of demonstrating that for time's sake, we should probably move straight to a demonstration or a brief introduction to what our AWS infrastructure looked like.
Okay, so yeah, as we all saw, we have all the services right here in Postman, the respective CRUD operations for every single one, the connectability between them. And then for AWS specifically, we utilize a good amount of services just so instead of having everything stored in our local environment, we wanted everything to be stored in a database that we could all utilize together instead of making changes to the database, making post requests on our own individual machines. And once we shut down the application, we would lose that data. We wanted to avoid that by putting it in a server within AWS to keep all the data stored in a safe and secure place. So what we did was, as you can see right here, the database instance we set up is in AWS. It's running, looking healthy. And just to give you a quick look, so that I'm already inside of the database itself using AWS Cloud Shell, and you can see the tables, right? So we got reservation, restaurant reviews, seating, student, customer. So seating is essentially table. So, and you can perform SQL commands just to retrieve the different information from it. So like if we want to select from reviews, we could bring up all the reviews, right? And you see how review number 1 says great restaurant for the content. If we go back to reviews and we look up review number 1, it'll show great restaurant. So it's all connected and looking good. And we wanted to take a step further and throw the application on an EC2 instance. So we could, instead of running it on our local, we could run it and it can have access via the web. So we took that, we deployed our jar for the application within the EC2, and it was given an elastic IP address. And then we attached a domain name that we purchased in Route 53 to the specific instance. So when we go to Postman and you see this domain, it's running off of an EC2 virtualized machine in AWS. That's also connected to a database instance in RDS. So we wanted to utilize as much as we could in the time given.
Thanks, Joe. Let's hop over to the what's next, and if it's all right, I'll close this out before opening up for questions. So essentially, there's pieces we didn't get to. One thing that we were kind of bummed about is we wanted to break out our services and run them via a script that issued out individual execution threads for each service. Currently, the way our application works is it's a lot like some of our projects. It runs through a single build and prepares a jar. So it's not exactly the microservices that we wanted to have. Another aspect that we really wanted to have was we were working on having the notification system included. It was an optional feature, but we thought it'd be cool to do. And Kyle identified a library that looked pretty promising. We ran into some issues when we started integrating it, so we had to kind of backpedal. Beyond that, we think that the whole demonstration would be so much simpler if we had a front end. And I know that if we had more time, preparing a front end would make we could show the different views for a manager and a regular customer user. And speaking of which, the way our application currently is, the authentication wants to know, are you an authenticated API user or are you not? It does not necessarily know about whether you're a manager or not a manager. So there's an aspect to the accounts that we hold in the database that we didn't get to fully utilize as we had intended. So, yep, that about sums it up. Is there anything else that I'm leaving out, Joe? I'm sure there is, and same Kyle.
I think mainly the two things that we really wanted to get to was the essence of a microservice architecture. Instead of keeping everything in one repository, we wanted to keep every service in a separate repository and have them orchestrate with one another. We were close to it, but we ran into some cascading errors that we had to, like Kyle said, or like Brian said, we had to backpedal a bit on an issue like that. So just to make sure we had the application working as a whole. So that is something we were discussing before that we would love to complete and post on GitHub after this class is concluded. So that was one aspect that I think we'll definitely reconvene after the class and get settled. But I think you covered most of it, Brian.
Yeah, one other thing I think maybe worth mentioning is like the lessons we learned through the project itself. Despite us not being able to accomplish all our goals on our application, we were able to, or our system, we did get to explore a lot of collaboration, remote collaboration, and we got to do a lot of debugging sessions and help each other out. And I feel like the lessons learned there are quite valuable and apply everywhere. So we're definitely taking that with us, and made some new friends too. So it's been a good experience for all of us.
Yeah, I wanted to throw in one last thing, exactly like Brian said. It was incredible working with Brian and Kyle, and like we had a lot of sessions that were really long and beneficial, and where we were just brainstorming and bouncing ideas off each other, and it proved to be really beneficial. And it was really, the assignment itself was cool because it almost like it mirrored how it would be in the real life, taking on requirements from a client and then setting up meetings. In our case, we just messaged through Teams, but going over requirements that were feasible and what requirements weren't feasible in our time constraint that we were given. So it was really cool to produce an application based on that realistic scenario. So I think all in all, it was a really beneficial learning experience for everyone involved. I really enjoyed it myself.
And that concludes our presentation. Now's, I guess, an appropriate time to open up for questions, if that's all right, Professor.
Great, guys. Great presentation. All right. Yeah, time for QA session. I'd like to invite Group B to speak up if you guys have any questions. Kaushik and Brian.
Yeah, it's an excellent presentation. Really liked it. The services are designed in a way they're modular, and the naming conventions are applied well, and also each endpoint does a specific task, like creating a restaurant or creating a menu item or updating menu item as per the specifications, or as per the standards that we read in our module or covered in the module. That's really a fantastic job you guys did. And I also like the way it is deployed on AWS. It's something that I personally wanted to do. Joseph Boylan is also it's on the other course that I'm attending, the cloud computing course. So it's good to see him, and good to see Kyle as well as Brian. Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Any questions, Kaushik?
One question I have is in your REST API authentication, right? So did you use any role apart from authentication in the authorization? Any specific roles you covered? I'm sorry, I might have missed that, but I just wanted to ask if you can elaborate anything on that.
The role thanks for asking the question. The role that we had established was just user. It's very basic, but considering the problems we encountered along the way, it made sense to stick to something that was a bit on the simple side. However, it was supposed to be customer and manager. And so user was going to stand in place for customer, and we were going to apply flags to users that had management privileges and their associated restaurants that they manage. But yes, just the user role, and then those who are unauthenticated.
Okay. Maybe like, yeah, exactly. Going forward, that the project can be expanded further to have additional roles, right? So
Definitely.
that'll help. Thank you.
Good. More questions, Brian?
I don't really have a question. I was curious about the authorization as well, but I just want to make the comment how I like how you guys went the extra mile with the deployment on AWS and using the domain name and integrating a database to store all your guys' data so it doesn't delete after every time. So I really like how you guys did that and went the extra mile. So
Thank you.
yeah, that's about it for me. You guys covered a lot of stuff, so I don't really have any questions.
Okay. I have few. First, I would like to start from saying, guys, great presentation, great job. Yes, indeed, you went extra mile in a couple of directions by deploying on AWS, by utilizing database. Questions I have are, question number one is, I did not hear anything about use of API specifications. Did you guys look at developing API spec? If you did you develop it? Did you use it for coding? Was it API first, code first approach? Can you?
No, we didn't utilize Swagger for the API specification. In retrospect, when I think about it, we could honestly do it today and it'd be fairly quickly, especially since we have the application completely developed. We could do a code first approach, but no, unfortunately, we didn't have time. We were working up until the last minute, making sure the final touches were there, but that would be amazing add-on.
The reason was just lack of time or something else as well?
No, it wasn't due to anything. We had other issues, main issues that were high level requirement issues that were giving us, as we added more features into the application, and it kind of added more dependencies, which made it slightly sensitive. So we were experiencing different crashes on a lot of ends. And we were working up into, we weren't working up into the last minute, but we were just making, we were working on it pretty consecutively in the past few weeks. So I think it was just something that was almost like out of sight, out of mind. We didn't think of it at the time. And we were more so focusing on the functionality of the application, which, yeah, unfortunately, we were just making sure it was, we were having difficulty for a little bit getting everything working. So
to tag onto what Joseph was saying, we put together a design spec kind of document that essentially is a lot like what, you know, a spec first kind of design could have been. It's just that we didn't use any of those formal methods. We basically planned it out together on a document and made it, you know, here's our endpoints, here's what they do, went down the nitty gritty, the naming, but no, we didn't actually utilize that feature.
Gotcha. One more very quickly, backend services. Did you guys consider using backend services? Maybe, I don't know, maybe for the providing maybe location of the restaurant.
Yeah, when you say that, I feel bad because that was something that we probably could have thrown in without too much difficulty. We originally had an endpoint that looked for latitude and longitude, and we didn't implement the function that goes in between that endpoint and actually, forming a specific request. But that could be something. I know that we haven't yet submitted formally our project. We might be able to get that in there.
Okay. Okay. Well, I exhausted my questions. Well, okay, listen, again, thank you for great presentation, great job. Good work, guys. Thank you again.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Professor.
All right, time for Group B to present. Please,
Right.
floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me start sharing. Well, I started sharing my screen. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, proceed.
So we have our project consists of ebook store. It's an online bookstore that has an inventory of books, and there are customers online who place orders, creating a cart and place orders to purchase the books. Our team consists of myself. I'm a software developer. I work for a telecom company. I'm a developer, currently working on API as an API developer and a backend developer. My team member, Brian Garcia, he and I, we worked on this project. We created the database in H2, created the tables required, which I would present and show, as well as the endpoints for creating for the book service, order service roles, and users that we'll cover in a bit. Brian, would like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Name's Brian Garcia. I am a full-time developer, full stack developer. And yeah, that's about it.
Thanks, Brian. All right, so I have a few slides for this presentation. I'll start with the authentication. We are using JSON Web Token for authenticating the APIs. Authentication is a key because the APIs, API requests come from could be coming from a website or from other applications or other services. So authentication has to be done in a way that who is calling the services and whether they have the right credentials to log in. So using JSON Web Token, the customer's customer's email address is captured in a database, and then it will validate and it will return the cookie value that can be passed on for subsequent requests to the services. So, and then I'll also cover a couple of slides before I show the services. So for authorization, we have two roles. We have based on the requirements document, we have an admin role and a normal user role. Could be a customer purchasing the books. Admin role is the one that creates the books, creates any other specific like a store related information. Those services are handled by the admins. Normal user is a customer who places the orders, but can also access a couple of other services that are read only. For example, they can see, they can hit the get book service and receive the list of books from the database. So these are the two roles we have. Coming to the next slide, we are currently using H2 database, but the requirements say we they have MongoDB as a backend, but we build the basic tables in H2, but we can transfer them to whichever relational database system the client is looking for. So it's pretty portable. Use of the same structure of any RDBMS. Finally, we have these are the main REST API services that we currently have. We have roles service that manages various types of roles we have in the system. We have a user service who manages the list of users that include both admins as well as the customers. We have a book service that to add books, update, delete, book information, and then placing the orders, like creating order, creating the order details, calculating the amounts for the order, shipping information, and other stuff. So these are our core REST services that can be called from any user interface. So I'll start with the database first, and then I'll walk through the services from the Postman. So these are the core tables that we have. We have book table that has a list of books. The way the structure is like we have every book has a author book. You have a ISBN info. You have a price for the book and also the title and the description. You're also storing based on the requirements. They have a image URL that stores the front and back cover images. If they have it, it'll be stored. And we have the path stored, but then the actual images can be stored on a shared drive, can be accessed from here. So this REST endpoint will return the path from this table. Then we have the book header that has a customer ID, the tracking number, and the total price that the order consists of, and when the order was placed. The book order detail has the list of books, book ID, how many number of books that have been ordered, and what is order ID. Then we have the user table that has the email address, which is always unique for an user. There's also used as a user the login ID and the password, and when it is created. Then we have a role table that has an admin role and a regular user role, and any additional roles can also be added here as we go. And the user role table basically stores the user information as well as the role information. So it'll be useful for finding out the authorization, whether a specific role, a specific user has a role, a specific role required to do certain things, like adding a book or updating a book information. Only admins can do, non-users cannot do it. If you can excuse me, I just need to just open the front door. My kid is back from school, if you don't mind. I'll be right back. I apologize, I'm back. All right, so I have now I need to disconnect it so I can run it from the application. So these are all the endpoints we have. So the first thing is I'll start with the authorization. So this is the service we have to register users. It takes the email ID and the password and returns a JWT token that will be used for authenticating the user for rest of the services. And if I say select the get user info token, it returns my logged in ID. Then I'll go to the rest of the endpoints and show how without the token you can't authenticate it. So if I go here and if I don't provide the token, I'll be getting a 403 forbidden status. With a valid token ID, I'll be able to return access the list of books. As you can see from the table, it returns all the information, all the records from for this specific data from the book table. And you have you can search by an ID. If I go to it, it'll return ID number 2. We can also search by authors. So one author has multiple books. You can search by it. David Goggins is the author. You have 3 books by him. You can also search by title. Specific title. It'll return it'll return a book with a specific title. You can also search for a given price, like $12.26. I have an exact price for a book. Books with a price range between $10 and let's say $200. These are all the prices. So how about like $10 and $20? We should get a smaller list, a shorter list. Yeah, there it is. And then we can search with a specific word in the title, like habits. So we need various types of services, various types of endpoints to facilitate a better user experience from the UI. if someone wants to search for, they don't know the full author name, but then they want to give the first name, then look for results. You can get it from here. Then book description also contains. So we developed the book service endpoint with possible ways to get the results out. And then you can also search by ISBN as well. So all the endpoints we have made the bearer token as required. So we'd see the forbidden, then as I change it to bearer token, we're seeing the results. All right. So this is for retrieving the results, retrieving the books. So if we want to post a brand new book, creates ID number 6. If I create one more, edition 3, I would see ID 7. So the table has been designed in a way that we have an identity key. The identity key increments it, and we have from using JPA repository, we have set it up the entities in such a way that the identity key is taken care to increment the values. And then we have also built a lot of validations. So if we don't provide title, it gives you that is a valid field. So if we don't provide author, it errors out. Similarly, ISBN is needed. Price is needed, is a required field. And front cover and back cover, we just left it as optional. For editing the book, we provide all the attributes. And then if we want to change the price from $25 to, let's say, $45, $45 is stored. And same validations are set up where if we have, if I don't provide ID, it gives a validation check saying ID is needed. We felt that validations are very critical. Authentication is very critical for all the services. So we have good data in and good data out. So that's essential for having a good functional system. And then we covered the validations. Then we'll demonstrate deleting a book. Maybe book 2 is there. Let's see. There's some issues going on with it, but there is a delete function to delete a book that is also available. Maybe it is having some constraints set up that if you have order set to a book, you cannot delete it. We would see, but we do have an option to delete. Then we'll cover the new book order. The new book order is placing an order for specific books. So if we want to have, I'll start with this. So let's say we have for customer number 5, we have this book with one item, and then the second one, let's say we have 3 books. Then our service creates the tracking number, the total price automatically calculated. The order date is the time today, date and time today. And then it also lists the parent-child relationship, like a list of details, the specific books, and the order quantities. Similarly, we have validation set up in a way that if we do not provide, let's say, no books are provided, but you have, let's say, if we want to place an order, then it should error out. Maybe it's errors out, but we want to give a specific error. We want to show that it should say details not found or something like that. So yes, provide order details. So Brian and I, we emphasize more on all the services have validations properly done, making sure good data is in before data is, records are saved. We want to make sure we have information correctly provided to us. Then updating order is another feature where we have an existing order and then we want to make some changes to it. So if we go and take this entire order, number 3, and then authentication, inheritance, then change from one book to 2, and then we want to drop the second book. There you go. So we have 2 books, 1 book dropped, and then we change the order to 2. So we have $24.52 properly calculated. Because these 2 services are very critical, that we want to make sure that functionality is properly done as per the requirements. And similarly, we can also delete orders. I want to delete, let's say, order number 2. Order has been deleted. And if we give order number, let's say 200, which is not there, it errors out saying error deleting order. Then just like the book service, we have the book order service, we have a wide variety of search options. We can search by ID. One search, I got it for order number ID 1. If we give 100, there's no order like for 100, so it should it doesn't error out. It's probably best idea is to give maybe like no order found or something like that. But right now it's not returning anything. But we will, I think we should change that one going forward as an enhancement.
Kaushik, excuse me just for a second.
Mm.
You have about 2-3 minutes left.
Okay, that's it. So quickly I'll cover one more thing is we have all roles. And then these are the roles, admin role and regular user role. We can get user by role, by email address. It returns the user and a specific role. Then we can also add users. User roles I can add, like I want to change from one to the other. You can change it. I want to actually quickly demonstrate one thing before we end is I want to change myself from an admin to a normal user, and I try to change the book. It should not let me do it. So if I can do that. So this is my ID. I want to change myself from admin 1 to 2. There's a regular user. So I'm a regular user now. And now I'll try to post a book and you should not let me add it because only admins can do it. There you go. So it says, sorry, don't have credentials to access the roles. So this is the authorization piece that we are talking about. Only admins can do books, creation, update, and delete. Regular users can place the orders, but they cannot make changes to the adding the books. And the code-wise, we made sure that our code is modular. We have validations defined. Authentication, authorizations is set up. Input validations are set up. And then saving of the data. I'll end my presentation and then we'll take any questions or expand further on the code. We could be Brian and myself. We can do that.
All right. Thank you, Kaushik, Brian. Any questions? Group A? Did you like it? Did you see anything not meeting your expectations?
Brian here. I thought it looked really good. It definitely looked like you put a lot of effort into keeping things secure, and I feel like that delivers a lot of business value in the end. I guess in terms of the question, you know, what was the hardest part for your team putting this together? I'm just curious.
Brian, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So there were some things that I ran out of time and I wanted to integrate. I had some integration issues working all the way into the 11th hour. But for me, I had issues with the authorization. So some stuff that I couldn't add, but it looks like we got to it here in the end, but I was trying to add in at the very end was the roles and authorization and enabling method authentication. So for the users couldn't add books, or only certain admins can, or only admin roles can do certain tasks, and not the users. But it took me a while to get my hands on that, but it ended up coming up good in the end. So over to you.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah. So for yeah, I totally agree. I think that's the one thing we discussed. I for me personally, I see that the other features, like I wanted to we were discussing it, then we wanted to link it with like with the payment system, because that's another piece that we wanted to expand. But there are that's you know, instead of building a model for placing orders or you know, credit card payments or something like that, there are some services that AWS offers or rest of the cloud services, cloud providers offer that we could tap on. So we were trying to do some research on that and understand how it works out. It secures transactions work on the cloud.
Okay, okay. More questions, please? Anybody?
So I had a few questions, but first off, I want to say, yeah, this was a great project. You guys did a really good job. I like not only how you have individual GET requests for all the variables for books, but how organized your database was, and how easily readable. That was definitely much appreciated to look at. As far as requirements goes, I think all of them were met, or most of them were met, if not all of them. I think and then one thing I really enjoyed looking at was the validation checks, seeing if you were, if it accept error handling or exception messages were thrown, if you left out any variables. One thing when you were going through that I realized, I was like wondering if the user goes to add a book that they want to purchase, a few couple books, or they want to, or I guess the question is better phrased, if they want to search to see if a specific book is available. You had 3 stored in your database. What if, is there any validation checks at the moment to where if they search a book and they put in a name, and that name doesn't match with any of the 3 that you currently have?
So let's say we have I'm going to search by, you said by name, right? Like, is it by title?
Yeah,
Can I-
title.
Yeah. So I have habits I searched, right? So I found one record.
Yeah,
right?
what if you take off the S at the end?
Because it will still search for habit, right? So it's found. It's basically doing it's basically searching for contains. So anything within the text is able to find. But if I find for habit dash or something like that, right? Then it basically returns an empty array. That's what we wanted to give. We don't want to give an error, but an empty array that the front end can use, or the consumer of the service can use to see, okay, there are no matching records.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. And then authentication, you use the bear token for all the methods or all the services or request methods?
Yes. For all the methods, we use the bear token. So if like this one is, if I don't, let's say I go here and then change something, right? Just add one character, then it basically gives us a bad request. But I think the ideal error should be like not authorized or something like that. Forbidden should be the right one, right?
Yeah.
Like say if I do this, it will give a forbidden 403.
Nice. Yeah, everything looks great. Really enjoyed watching it.
So we made sure that if we don't have that, then throw an exception with forbidden.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I
And
think
then yeah.
we were looking at how you guys were demonstrating the user roles. That could be beneficial as well to our project. So that was really cool. I think we picked up a few details that you guys implemented in your project that I think would be beneficial in ours. And I hope vice versa. I hope you picked up some from us as well. So I think all in all, yeah, it was a great project.
Thanks, Joseph, because from your project perspective, we really liked deploying it on AWS and using an MySQL database there. It's a very nice way. That was our goal, but we are not there yet. So
Yeah. A couple more weeks, and I think both our projects would be maybe at the beginning of a startup company, but
yeah.
yeah. But no, great job. I really enjoyed watching it.
Thank you. It's a team effort. Thank you.
I would like to echo it. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I noticed that you guys didn't talk about use of API specification. The same question, any specific reason for not doing API spec?
I have it running on my local instance right now. There's a few things that I had integration issues at the last minute that didn't get into the demo, but I actually have it deployed or running on my local instance. So I do have it in there. It's just not in this, but for the final submission, I can have that in there by then. So.
Right. When you mentioned integration issues, can you be more specific? What kind of issues?
Yeah, I had my local stuff running, and whenever I tried to merge and test it out, my machine kept failing, and I was having a bunch of failures. So
it's not related to spec, right?
Sorry, what was that?
Question was about API spec, and I think you said that you have it on your local machine, but then due to integration issues, you were not able to show it. And I said, after explaining the issues, I said, doesn't seem to be related to API specification, right?
No, it wasn't that. I had a bunch of updates that I wanted to push up, and there was so many that I was getting a bunch of issues. Instead of what I should have done was done a little piece at a time and checked it up. As when I was trying to get everything checked in at once, I was running into issues. So I do have Swagger enabled onto my local project. That wasn't one of the issues that was causing when I was trying to push it up, but just for your reference, I do have it running on my local. It's just trying to get everything merged a big piece at once. I had a few issues I ran into.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I also like the fact that you addressed validation of input parameters very well. So yeah, it was very critical, I guess, functionality to be implemented. And search implementation, obviously, is very cool. Good job, guys. Group B.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that concludes our two presentations, and both presentations were great, and I think two teams were able to address presented requirements to them, and during the presentations we heard few nice features being implemented, and it was a good source for knowledge to be picked up moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, so basically with this presentation day, we are concluding our course, and we went pretty long way, several months of learning so many topics related to services, service APIs, design, development, design patterns, implementation APIs, specification, testing, all of the above. So yeah, I think we covered a lot, and I hope that you guys learned something, maybe more than something, and you will be able to apply your knowledge in your work projects. And all I would like to encourage you all to do is to keep learning, never stop learning, because this subject, as well as many other subjects in IT, are moving forward with fast speed, so very high level speed. So we have to learn every day. Every time you wake up, you find something new, and keep learning. keep learning and keep building up your knowledge and be successful in applying knowledge in your work projects as well. Yeah, as I said, I will finish recording and I will post recording on our Canvas website. I will complete grading process in the next 2 to 3 days and post final grades for the course in Student Information System. Any questions for me?
No, not questions about this comment. Thank you very much for the well-structured course. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. It helped me a lot to improve my skills, and looking forward to implement certain features, certain topics that are not covered, that I haven't done it at work. So it gives me an opportunity to explore further. Thank you.
You're welcome, Kaushik, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. I did want to ask, how should we submit the final project? Is there some
Oh,
sort
thank you
of-
for asking that. Yes, please. We have a couple options, I guess. We can submit it through the Teams as an attached file, please.
Okay, sure.
Both
And
teams.
right, do you want me to do you want us to do as a master jar file and submit with all the?
Yes, please. Yes. Yes,
Sure.
just like you do for what you've done for all other assignments. Yes. The code itself, all configuration files, the whole project structure, please. Yes.
And the collections, the Postman collection JSON file too, so that.
Include that into your master jar file. Yes. Yes. So again, you're submitting this through the Microsoft Teams as attachment.
Sure, we'll do that.
Yeah, please. And make sure to submit it tonight, if that's okay with you. More questions, please?
Yes, Professor. I have 2 other finals to finish tonight. If I'm not able to get to the submission tonight for whatever reason, is it possible for us to submit the project, like for example, throw in the spec, the API spec or whatever tomorrow and get it in tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes, please do that.
Okay.
Yeah, tomorrow's fine. My deadline for finalizing all of the grades and publishing final grades is up to 72 hours, according to university policy. So we have maybe a few days to finalize everything. So on your part and on my part.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you very much, sir. This is my last semester. I'm done with my program, so I'm looking forward. Yeah.
Congratulations. Anybody else that's graduating?
Yep, I'm done. I'm done by midnight tonight, sort of.
Congratulations, guys. Brian,
Thank you.
Kaushik, and the rest of you, Kyle, Joseph, Brian, good luck with the rest of the time and the rest of the courses that you will be taking, and best wishes to all of you.
And Professor, I want to say sorry to you and my teammates. Actually, I gave a disastrous speech. I'm not fully prepared. And today I feel like as a technician, we not only need to understand the technology, but also need to exercise our expressive ability. This is also my greatest weakness. So thanks again to my teammates, to their tolerance and encouragement in the project development process. And I will continue to work hard on my oral English. And thanks again to the professor for this class.
No worries, you're
yeah.
okay. Thank you for taking
thank you.
together with us. All right, guys.
One final question. So I'm planning to attend the graduation ceremony on 22nd May. Just curious if you are you in and around Baltimore, or will you be around that place? Or?
Well, I'm sorry, I will be on travel.
Okay.
I would like to do that and
Yeah.
meet all of you, whoever is going to be there, but that day specifically, I will be on travel.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about
Just
that.
just checking if you're available. I would like to come because I'm traveling from California, so this is first visit for me.
Sure. All right, guys, with that, with your permission, I'm gonna stop recording.
Sounds good. Thank